good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what part of the day you're watching this new episode of Data-Driven Formula One. For me, it's morning, but it doesn't mean that it has to be the same for you. Today we have one of the more regular episodes where we speak about one particular year of Formula One, and this time it is season 1993. So you see, we are quite good advancing in the 90s. If you are following us on YouTube Music, Spotify, the video version, you see here a photo of Ayrton Senna in the McLaren, now powered with Ford after Honda left officially Formula One. Even if Honda has a quite emotional relation to motorsports, Formula One in general, on the other hand, they always have a clear business goal. And in this case, Honda had to focus on their car business due to the changes. They had to invest into new technologies, and that's why temporarily they left Formula One, and and Ford followed their footsteps. Besides this, it's still the classic livery we already know from the end of the 80s. So still the Marlboro red and white livery, even though to new anti-smoking regulations in most countries. In many of the Grand Prix, we do not see anymore the name of the sponsors, which would have been there where you see now McLaren. There would have been Marlboro, but in many countries, advertising for cigarettes had been forbidden. So still the livery was allowed, but not the name anymore of the sponsors. But that's enough for the introduction. Let's start with the episode. Welcome to Data-Driven Formula One, season 1993. Besides Formula One, what have been important in the world? First of all, we had the European Union formation. The Maastricht Treaty came into effect on November the 1st, so after Formula One, officially now establishing the European Union as we know it from today. South Africa, Nelson Mandela and de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to dismantle apartheid. World Wide Web, the first graphical web browser, Mosaic. You may Google it if you don't know it. Quite interesting how the first websites looked like. So this was really an important step for the web, the internet in general, to go out from military usage only, from university usage, allowing it access to all citizens in most places. At the movies, we had Jurassic Park, the first one, the one who started the whole franchise, based on the book by Crichton, and due to my personal opinion, still the best of the whole franchise. So the first Jurassic Park movie, who first time presented CGI on this level of quality, and still had something magical, bit seeing a dinosaur for the first realistic dinosaur for the first time, which of course gets lost if you repeat it in various movies. Even though from a science point of view, we may say dinosaurs look different than in the Jurassic Park movies, but for legacy reasons, even in the newer Jurassic Park movies, the dinosaurs still look as we thought they look in the 90s. This considering newer insights here. But let's really focus on Formula One season in a nutshell. Important, the electronic aids, especially Williams pushed strongly active suspension, traction control, ABS. On a smaller level, also McLaren and the other teams, but really Williams have been on the forefront. And I remember Ayrton Senna saying in 93, but also already in 92, that he would love to drive for Williams even with $0 salary, which was not possible for 93 as Alain Prost joined Williams, and as far as they say, he had in his contract that it was forbidden to hire Ayrton Senna by Williams while he was still driving there, as he wanted to avoid having a similar rivalry at the head at McLaren. Of course, this sparked debates about driver skills versus technology. As the more smarter the car gets, maybe the less smarter the driver has to be. Of course, it's not that simple as using a smart machine on the limit. You also have to develop new, maybe different skills, not the old-fashioned racer as a Nigel Mansell, for example, but somebody more adapted to this technology. Rubens Barrichello had his debut with Jordan in '93, also the Sauber team, supported by Mercedes, but it was not an official Mercedes works team because Mercedes was a little bit skeptical how successful this would be, this new adventure, how well perceived by the fans, and that's why it was Sauber. The engine said, I think, engineered by Mercedes or something like this, but it was not an official works team. Even, yes, it was strongly supported by Mercedes, similar as also in the Group C racing. If you're interested in Sauber Group, including Group C and the later junior team, we have a special episode on this. Also interesting was the nearly direct comparison Formula One versus IndyCar, as the reigning Formula One champion Nigel Mansell went to IndyCar and the reigning IndyCar champion Michael Andretti went to Formula One, to McLaren. The conclusions from this at the end of this episode. But with this, let's start with the season, which started South Africa, classic track Kyalami, victory, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, Mark Blundell. We stay on the south side, go to Interlagos, Brazil, victory for the local driver Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill, and the young talent Michael Schumacher. Third Grand Prix, this year we had two Grand Prix in the UK. One have been named the European Grand Prix to distinguish it from the British Grand Prix, and the European Grand Prix, sponsored by Sega, had been at Donington. Victory for Ayrton Senna, very good for the marketing, because Sega was the main sponsor of this Grand Prix, and also they published a video game, Ayrton Senna Monaco Grand Prix 2. So having their man winning the Grand Prix is, of course, perfect. Second, Damon Hill, the second Williams before the first Alain Prost. Important here again, Senna delivered one of the greatest laps in Formula One history, overtaking 4 cars already in the opening lap. The conclusions from the first races, not clear. Why do you say? Of course, the big favorite had been Alain Prost in the best car, the Williams Renault, winning first Grand Prix, but after this, the second victory is by Ayrton Senna. So here he had been stronger as expected, and only considering the 3 first races, you may say, yes, it could be an exciting close championship. Let's see how this works out. But still, some words to the Donington Grand Prix, the official called Sega European Grand Prix. Sega had a special trophy for this, as you see here on the left. This was not the official trophy. So for marketing reason, as Ayrton Senna was on the podium, he received the Sega trophy, of course, with taking all the photos, etc. And after this marketing event, he received the official trophy, which wasn't that. Today you find the Sega trophy still at the McLaren headquarters. As I said, perfect timing, because Ayrton Senna, Sega had been publishing Formula One games, including the year before the Sega Monaco Grand Prix 2. Besides this, Ayrton Senna was a big hero in Japan, especially since his early days together with Honda. He became the first Formula One superstar in Japan and is on this level still today. Next race, Imola, the San Marino Grand Prix, and now victory by the favorite Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, Martin Brundle. Spain, Catalonia, Alain Prost again. Ayrton Senna, second place, Michael Schumacher. Monaco, Monte Carlo Grand Prix, we often say this is a driver's track, meaning small, curvy. Here, the importance of the driver has a higher relation than the importance of the car. And as most people say, Ayrton Senna was the strongest driver, even not in the strongest car. He took victory for the second, Damon Hill in the second of the Williams, and Jean Alesi strong third place because the Ferrari that year wasn't that competitive. But of course, Jean Alesi also a very strong driver, especially in curvy tracks, rainy conditions, etc. From there to Canada, Alain Prost, another victory before Damon Hill, and third place, Michael Schumacher. Sad news, this was the last race for James Hunt, not as a driver, but as a commentator for the BBC, because shortly after this, he died, if I'm correct, heart attack. So last time we could listen to James Hunt, the former world champion, at least if we followed the Grand Prix at the BBC. From Montreux to another French-speaking country, France, Magny-Cours, victory, Damon Hill, Alain Prost, Martin Brundle. This has been also the 100th podium for Alain Prost. And you see victory for the second driver at Williams before Alain Prost. And this is, I think, typical for Alain Prost, the professor, in opposite to, for example, Ayrton Senna, who always drove 100%. He drove, if necessary, only 90%, preferring second place than winning, because if you drive 100%, of course, there is a higher risk of a technical failure at the car, a higher risk of a human failure, meaning accident, etc. So Alain Prost not always drove 90%, but he had the focus on the long-term goal, winning the championship. And this does not mean winning each of the single races. From there, UK, Silverstone, now the British Grand Prix victory, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, Riccardo Patrese in the second of the Benetton. You see technical problems for Damon Hill on the track, engine failure. You see it if you follow us on YouTube Music or Spotify video, which we highly recommend, because yeah, it's more an audio podcast, but we say it's an enhanced audio podcast, so we always like to show statistics, photos, graphics, etc. So if possible, try to follow us on the video version. From there, Germany, the high-speed race at Hockenheim, victory for Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, second position, Marc Blundell. Similar, which we talked about in earlier episode with the Mansell Mania. We had in 93 the Schumacher Mania, the Schumacher Fever. You say Formula One got a lot of traction in Germany, where we did not have competitive drivers in competitive cars for decades, I would say since the early 1960s, where we had Berge von Trips in Ferrari with the big possibility winning the championship, even he hadn't had the fatal accident. So for decades, no German driver on a competitive level in Formula One, and we had a lot of traction for Formula One in the 90s due to this, as you see, for example, on this photo. Then Damon Hill won at Hungary, Budapest, also a small curvy track. You may say a driver's track. Damon Hill often criticized that he may not had the skills, talent of his father. Nevertheless, he won a championship, he won important races, and this underlines that, yes, he was a skilled driver, and that there was a reason why he not only had been inside Formula One, but also won races and won championship. Third position, Gerhard Berger with Ferrari. Spa-Francorchamps, another victory, Damon Hill. Michael Schumacher, he often said Spa-Francorchamps had been his favorite track. This because it's really interesting track, high-speed areas where you have all the phase in the technology to not go full speed through Eau Rouge, but also small curvy tracks. So very complicated track, often changing rainy conditions. And besides this, it was it was the home Grand Prix for Michael Schumacher, the nearest track due to his hometown in Hürth. Not in Hürth, but near Cologne. Adam Prost, third place. From there, high-speed race, Monza. Yes, another victory, Damon Hill. Jean Alesi, the Ferrari Home Grand Prix, second. And the first time we see Michael Andretti here, the reigning IndyCar champion who drove alongside Ayrton Senna at McLaren Ford. And also it's the last time we will see it, because it was the last time, due to the lack of positive results, he decided, or maybe also McLaren supported him to deciding to leave Formula One and return to the US. We come back to this a little bit later. Portugal, Estoril, first victory this year for Michael Schumacher and the Benetton Ford. Before, Alain Prost, second place, and third, Damon Hill. This was the last race for the BMS Scuderia Italia, who will merge with Minardi, and the first start for the future champion Mika Häkkinen. He replaced Michael Andretti at McLaren. As said, Suzuka, Japan, and Ayrton Senna, always a special chapter. So victory here before the Japanese fans. Alain Prost, second place, so he was well on track to win the championship, even though not winning all races, but regularly storing high points, so he was on track. And third place, great second race for Mika Häkkinen at McLaren. And we saw the debut of Eddie Irvine, not only very skilled driver, very interesting character. We will do a special episode about him, because there are a lot of things which you may not aware about Eddie Irvine. Final race for Alain Prost, also final race of the season. Adelaide, Australia, victory, Ayrton Senna, second place, Alain Prost, Damon Hill. And this was the last race of Alain Prost in Formula One. He decided to retire, a little bit related to the age. I mean, he could have continued, but Ayrton Senna reached his goal, getting a contract for Williams, and as said, Alain Prost, under no circumstances, wanted to be in the same team with Ayrton Senna. So he retired, and with his retirement, practically also the quite toxic relationship between Senna and Prost changed into something normal. Not saying they became friends, but it wasn't toxic anymore. If you're interested in this topic, please check out our episode Being Ayrton Senna, where we spoke about Senna and his mindset, psychology, etc. Before we come to the standings, I mean, I already told you and Prost won the championship, the constructor championship. Williams Renault 168 points, which is exactly the double of McLaren Ford on second position with 84 points. So important. I come back to this in some seconds. Third, Benetton Ford 78 points. Ferrari, very disappointing year, only 28 points. Ligier, Renault, 23 points, the all-French team with the French engine. So here you see why was the Williams Renault so strong. It was the technology, active suspension, ABS, etc., etc. used by Williams together with the strong Renault engine, because you see the strong Renault engine inside a more conventional car like the Ligier wasn't that special this year. Then Lotus Ford, 12 points. Sauber, very strong first year with the Mercedes engineered engine, 12 points. Minardi Ford, 7 points. The all Japanese footwork Mugen Honda, 4 points. Here we see still the Honda engine, but this wasn't the official works engine. Mugen, founded by the Honda founder's son. It's part of the Honda company, but it was not the official works engine anymore. So only 4 points for this combination. Also, Lamborghini, the engine never really went competitive. Larus Lamborghini, 3 points on the 10th position. Then Jordan Hart, 3 points. SMS Scuderia Italia with the Lola Ferrari, 0 points. And also, of course, very disappointing Tyrrell Yamaha with 0 points. Yamaha would get a little bit better the next years, but also never really became competitive. Here you see in big the winning Williams FW15C, FW Frank Williams. For me, the classic Williams livery. Yeah, sorry, I'm old-fashioned, which is the yellow, blue, white, red. Very beautiful design, as all cars in the first half of the 90s. Still not the wings everywhere, but quite minimalistic, aerodynamic design, independent if it's the Williams or smaller team. They all looked very professional, very aesthetic. And by the way, you see here also Sega as one of the main sponsors. So even if they strongly work together with Ayrton Senna, they sponsored its competitor Alan Prost, Damon Hill at Williams. Here you see the Tyrrell 21, as said, also professional looking car. Yes, from an aesthetic point, it doesn't look that beautiful, that fast than the Williams. Maybe also because of the Yamaha engine was quite big, which interfered with the design of the body. Less sponsors, but that's how it was. Benetton introducing the high nose in Formula One. From an aesthetic point, yeah, not that beautiful, but efficiently, and it would be copied by various teams the next years. Benetton went away from the all united color of Benetton with the different colors, becoming more green and yellow. This as the new sponsor, main sponsor had been Camel, and they had been yellow with the blue camels. Yeah, I said it before, Camel not really a logical fit for me in Formula One, as I may consider them more with adventure, like Range Rover somewhere in the desert or in the jungle, than on at the atmosphere of a Formula One track. Anyway, they had been a long time sponsor and quite successful with Benetton. The McLaren MP4/8 we already saw. Classic McLaren design, even though they changed the engine, works Honda to works Ford. Beautiful car, still very fast, competitive, depending on which track. Also, of course, with strong drivers as Ayrton Senna, who had to practically do it alone for a big time, because Michael Andretti never really adapted to the car. Came better then with Mika Häkkinen, as we saw. So the car was still very good, not on the same level as Williams Renault, but still very good. Same colors, red, white, footwork, Mugen Honda. As said, the all-Japanese team with the all-Japanese classic design, as we saw also with the very first Hondas, white with a little bit of threat. Yeah, they've been in Formula One several years, never really at the top, never really in the midfield even. But I mean, it's great to see also the small teams. This was made Formula One interesting in the 90s, 80s, and before. Lotus, unfortunately, also not on competitive levels anymore. Even though the design looks nice, classic British racing green, a lot of interesting sponsors, Castrol, and a lot of fashion, Tommy Hilfiger, Pippe jeans, which have been quite in fashion in the 90s. I don't know if the brand still exists. If you want to comment, you can do it under our video, but they've been very in fashion, very fashionable in the 1990s. Belarus with the Lamborghini engine, small French team, red, blue, looks nice, the car, even though the Lamborghini engine too heavy, not enough horsepower, so not really helping pushing the team forward. The sympathetic small Italian team, Minardi M193, this time with Beta, an Italian tool company which had been sponsoring Formula One also, I remember, in the 70s with the famous Brambilla. Normally their colors are orange, but seems they're not sponsoring that much money. Minardi stayed with white instead of having full orange cars, even though orange cars always looked good. Like I think it was a March in the 70s, also the Eurobrun with the Jägermeister livery. Anyway, I assume a question of money. It's quite good year for Minardi, and the next year they would join their forces with SMS Dallara with the Scuderia Italia. All French team, Ligier, JS39, in the past, strong team competing for championship, but these times unfortunately are gone. Even though if they had the Renault engine, never been really competitive or on the same level as Williams. Also, as already said, not the strongest year for Ferrari is the F93A. Here also the design reminds to the 70s, to the famous car driven by Niki Lauda with the white stripe. Yeah. The nose already on the way, I would say, to becoming a high nose. So Ferrari was on the same way as Benetton, not that extreme, but the aerodynamics of this car never really worked out. Is this become to the people, to the drivers? Alain Prost won the championship, 38 years. As said, it's an age where you could retire. I mean, you could have continued, but it's already a good age for retire, at least, especially if you want to ensure that you retire on your top and not when you didn't find a good seat anymore. In average, we see that the age is going down of the successful drivers in comparison to maybe 10, 20 years before. Second, Ayrton Senna with McLaren Ford, 33 years, and also 33. Damon Hill joined Formula One quite late because he was, I think, champion in motorcycle racing. So he switched from 2 to 4 tires, as I think Surtees did many years ago. So he wasn't the first. As said, third place. When you're quite young in the series, it's a good result. Of course, he wasn't on this. I mean, he wasn't on the same level as Alain Prost, even though, and I want to underline it, he won several Grand Prix even though there had been strong other competitors, Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, which clearly underlines the skills and talents of Damon Hill. Fourth, Michael Schumacher with the Benetton Ford. Benetton Ford now clearly the third force in Formula One. They had the long-term goal being able to win the championship, and step by step we see they coming closer this goal, which requires a young, fast talent, Michael Schumacher, but also one experienced driver who can give you feedback, which ensures not being that often in accidents, whatever. And this was Riccardo Patrese on the fifth position with 39 years and a lot of experience. Jean Alesi, 29 years, sixth position with the Ferrari. Then Martin Brundle with the Ligier Renault on the seventh, before Gerhard Berger, Ferrari, 35 points. One problem with Ferrari this year was, of course, also besides aerodynamics, reliability. So often they didn't saw the finishing line. And ninth, Johnny Herbert with the Lotus, the all British team with a British driver. So a good result for Johnny Herbert. Again, Lotus wasn't on the levels where they had been maybe 10 years before. Speaking about the legacy, let's come back to the comparison, Formula One versus IndyCar. So we had Nigel Mansell, who left Formula One as the champion because he didn't want to be in the same team with Alain Prost. And he joined Newman. Yes, this is Paul Newman, the famous Hollywood actor and race fan. The Newman Haas, yes, also a name, you know, from today's Formula One racing team powered by Ford. And he, in his rookie year, had 191 points and won the championship. The other way around, Michael Andretti, the reigning IndyCar champion, joined McLaren Ford, only achieved 7 points and 11th position in the championship. I remember he really never adapted perfectly to the car. There had been a lot of spins in training sessions, qualifications. In the race, I mean, he hadn't the speed of Senna, so which Claudia, I think Andretti was considered the fastest of the IndyCar race drivers, and Ayrton Senna was the fastest of the Formula One drivers. And here, Formula One fans concluded that the quality of drivers in Formula One is higher than in IndyCar racing. This also may be underlined by the fact that Michael Andretti looked a little bit, let's say, chubby, overweight in comparison to the average slim Formula One drivers. So, and this was an adventure which not really had a positive outcome for Michael Andretti. That's why he not even finished 1 year in Formula One. So that's why at that time fans concluded, yes, Formula One is really the crown of motorsports, best cars, best drivers, and sorry, IndyCar only on a second level, maybe together with Formula 3000, which had been also very strong in the 90s, especially I remember in Japan. Okay, that's all for today, folks. If you like it, please like this episode. Of course, you're always free to comment if you agree, if you disagree, if you have ideas for future episodes, please comment. Please follow our podcast wherever you prefer following us, YouTube, Spotify, YouTube Music for the video version, the audio versions you find on all podcast catchers. If you're into music, please check out Spotify, the data-driven F1 mixtape. Here you find music inspired by Formula One, the sports in general, particular drivers. I think a lot of music you may discover. Some songs you know, some you may not know. And hope you like it, and see you next time. Bye bye.